Hi, Nigel Saunders for KW Bonsai. Today we're looking at my Bougainvillea Bonsai. It's a small little tree and I've been growing it for probably 17 years now. It started out as a little stick, is the best way to describe it, a small cutting from a nursery. It's a Pink Pixie variety, which is what they call it for the pink flowers. And so I've tried to keep it small and just develop it into a nice looking structure and make it a nice bonsai tree. So today we're going to be looking at it, doing some structural pruning, and we're going to repot it. So I'll start by giving you a 360-degree view of the tree. This has always been the front of the tree, and it's been facing the window in the plant room all winter. I think I may have rotated it once, but all the foliage is on this side of the tree. So you can't really see the structure of the tree from the front, but we'll rotate it around. And when you get to the back side, you can see more of the structure that I've been developing over the last 17 years. Yeah, so that's it today. A lot of my videos, I'm pretty fussy on root direction, getting a nice radial root base, and this tree, you can start to see the flare at the base of the trunk from those nice radial roots. So when we repot today, we're going to raise the tree up a bit more. It's sitting a little low in the pot right now to expose our surface roots more. We're going to reduce the height of the tree. If we take it around back here, we're going to reduce the height down to somewhere about here. So we'll be cutting off some of this new growth up here. And we're going to look at the structure and correct anything that needs fixing. One thing I should mention is you can see this white lime buildup on the pot, and there's some on the trunk here. That's because I ran out of rainwater in the winter and I had to use tap water. Yeah, our water in this area is full of lime, so anything you water with tap water, it just gets this buildup of white lime everywhere. So if you use rainwater, which I highly recommend, you don't get these ugly stains all over your tree and your pots. Alright, so we're going to start with the styling of this tree first. Bougainvilleas are a vine, so they don't really have a natural tree form. So we're going to style this tree basically as a informal upright. It's going to look like a tree you'd see in nature. Any typical broadleaf or deciduous tree. Someone in the club said these trees remind them of catalpa trees, which are great big trees with great big heart-shaped leaves, and yeah, they kind of do. They look like catalpa trees a lot. So we're going to start with the styling. I'll try and get in close. When working on tiny trees like this, you need tiny tools. You need a good set of glasses because you need to see all the close-up details. And so everything's smaller on a small tree, but the details are just as important as a large tree. So the first step, we want to reduce the height of the tree. So we've got to find a point. Right now it has multi-trunks at the top, or multi-branches, which I like. I like, you know, to form a crown of the tree. Eventually, you know, I can see this tree as a rounded silhouette on the top, which will really show the flowers off when they bloom. So we're going to take it back. We'll start with this back trunk. There is a shoot in here, so I'm going to take it back to that new shoot. Like so. And these will grow as cuttings also, so we'll we'll put those in some soil and root them. So we'll save our cuttings. Now I'm going to be pruning the flowers off here, which is a shame, but it'll grow more. So the next trunk we want is, we're going to prune it back to here. There's a leaf that faces outwards, so if we prune just above that point, we're going to get a branch that faces that direction. So we'll go right in here. And there goes our nice flowers. So that's kind of got the back branches, or the back trunk, pruned down to size. Now we have one shoot that's kind of growing in towards the tree, so we want to get rid of that. We can't really redirect it, it's just growing the wrong direction. So that's gone. So now we're going to deal with the front trunk. And again, we're going to take it back. Now it does have a point here where it subdivides. So we're going to take it back to one of those divisions. Right back to here. And this one we'll take back to here. Now let's see how it looks. You can see it from the back there. The height is actually pretty good now. You can't see it from the front, but we'll fix that too. Okay, so we've got our top pruned down. The next thing, if you look at the front here, we've got a long branch growing upwards here. That's getting too long. It's kind of out of our rounded profile, so we're going to prune it back. And again, we're looking for an outward facing leaf to prune to, so we'll start right here for now. I just noticed some aphids on it that are no longer there. So we'll have to give the plant another spray. Let's see that now. That's better. There's another long shoot here at the side that we can trim it back to an outward facing leaf, right to there. There's one at the back here that we can prune shorter. So again, we'll pick some outward facing leaves right here. So that one's fixed. And I'm wondering if we should take it even shorter. No, not for now. Some of these long branches, see our two main lower branches here, they're starting to get very tall on the upright growth, so we can cut the tips off to get some ramification and do some directional pruning. So we'll do that. Pruning to some outward facing leaves. Also on this one here, we're going to do the same thing. And we're going to try and get to here. Actually, I'm going to take that off a little shorter here. There. So it's getting there. The shape is back under control, but we still have to look for all the detail work on the branches now. So we'll start with this lower branch down here. Let's see what's going on with it. It's an old flower bud we can take out of there. Where this flower is growing, it's getting quite upright on the branch, so we want to prune that back. And there's a bud that's facing outwards there that we can prune back to, like so. I'm going to take this tip down even a little bit more here. To there. There's a few branches here that don't have any leaves at the moment. They're still alive, but they just haven't been getting enough light to grow all the leaves, so they'll come. Especially in the greenhouse here, it'll come quite quickly. So looking at the front now, which I'm looking at, I'm looking for, there's a few branches in here that I don't need. They're kind of crossing in front of the trunk line that I'm just going to prune away. Yeah. I prune this one down a little shorter too. The rest of the branches are looking pretty good. Get up there. I don't see anything that's too bad at the moment. Get off of there. Yeah, I think we'll leave it at that for now. As it fills out in the summer, we'll be doing more pruning and more detail work on it. But I think this is going to do for now. So the next step will be to repot the tree. So let's start doing that. Okay, so the first step is to get the tree out of the pot. So again, we're going to loosen it up on the edges. This tree was repotted 2 years ago, so this is its second year in this soil and pot. We're not going to change the pot. I think the pot's quite suitable for it. I mean, we could put it in a smaller pot, maybe someday, I don't know. Okay, so it's loosened up. Let's see if it comes out. Boing, there we go. So there's the root ball. It looks like it's filled our soil nicely. You can see the roots everywhere. Now, roots on the bougainvilleas, they're quite fragile. I don't know if I can show you one here. Yeah, they break pretty easy. They just kind of snap. So you got to be fairly careful with the roots on them. So we'll take our pot away and we'll start raking the root base out. You see how brittle the roots are. There's some that are even just falling off right now, but we're trying to be as careful as we can. There's some thick ones in there too. And I have a spray bottle that I'm going to keep misting the roots. You don't want them drying out as you're working on the tree. That will help a lot. So we'll continue raking. So we've got a few roots that are entwined around the bottom here. So we'll start raking out from the bottom also. Trying to be as careful as possible with these fragile roots. Now they will regrow quickly if we do lose a lot of fine roots. It's one thing about a tropical tree. When the conditions are right, when you have lots of sunlight, lots of warmth, and lots of humidity, roots happen quickly, as does top growth. When conditions aren't good, like in the winter, the trees grow very slowly. You have to be careful not to overwater them. You have to be careful not to underwater them also. You just have to be more careful in the winter when the plant's not as vigorous. Okay, so I'm going to wash the roots next, and then we'll bring it back and start root pruning. Okay, so I've got the roots washed now, and we'll look at the bottom of the roots first. And the first thing you'll notice is that there's some roots growing down from the bottom, and we want to get rid of those. So we'll cut those off, nice and flush. So that's the only major root growing straight down. There is, let me see here. Let's go back up top now. We've got a root here. The root comes out from the trunk, and then it takes a 90-degree bend here, so we want to prune off this section of it to create a better flow line with our roots. And then there's one on the bottom here that's growing in a funny direction, and it's below our root plane, so we want to prune that off shorter, like so. There's a root here that's maybe a little high. Yeah, it's kind of out of our root plane just. I think it would spoil it if we kept that root, so we're going to take that one off. And there's also one on the opposite side here that's a little high if we want our roots to flow into the soil nicely. So we're going to take that one off also. Getting a nice flush cut there. And then the one beside it takes a weird direction, so we want to prune that off and get it going in a radial pattern rather than some curve off to the side, so I think, yeah, we're gonna have to take it back quite far and just leave the base of it. So to there. And I'm even thinking it's a little high. I'm going to take it right off. It's just too high in the root plane. There. Now, what do we have left? There's a root on the bottom here that's just growing. It's crossing all the other roots. Not even close to the right direction, so we're going to prune it off close to the point where it curves. We're going to trim off some of these fine feeder roots on the bottom. If you can see that. And then we've got one over here that goes down into the soil and does its own thing that we want to get rid of. And we'll just do a little raking here. With what's left. And the last thing we'll do, we'll just give a quick peripheral prune, profile prune. That one's got to come off. Let's get rid of any excessively long roots. And I think that's good. That'll keep our root base in check. So the next thing, we're going to plant the tree. Okay, so we're ready for our repotting. I'm just going to keep misting the roots. So I've got my drainage screens in, and I'm just picking the front of the pot now. And I noticed there's a little crack in the pot here, so we'll put that at the back, and we'll have to think about getting a new pot for it. I don't know how the crack happened. This pot's never been out in the frost or anything, but okay, so we're going to keep that as the front of the tree. I still like it as the front the best. So it's going to go in pretty well the same position. We're going to offset it slightly in the pot to this direction, so the balance of the tree is more over the center of the pot. So I've got two grades of soil. I've got a coarse standard bonsai soil that we're going to put in the bottom. And we're going to put our tree on top and check the height of it. And again, we want to start exposing some of the roots, but we don't want to kill off our newly pruned roots either. So we're going to do the standard thing where you place the tree in the pot at the height you want it to be, and then we might mound up some of this finer soil, which I have here for top dressing, mound it up until these roots get established in the soil, and then we can rake it away to get our final soil level. So the height in the pot right now, it's a little high. Actually, no, it isn't. It looks good from the front there. And our position, we could move it over slightly. Maybe there. I'm just going to have a look at that from the front. Yeah, that's not too bad. So then we'll start filling in with our finer soil, and this is the stuff I sifted out when I was making my standard bonsai soil mix. So it's fairly dust free. It has some dust in it, but not a lot. It's just the finer particles. So we're going to start putting that around our tree. And the reason I'm using 2 grades is you want really good drainage in the bottom, which the coarse soil gives, and the finer soil holds the moisture better. If you use too porous a soil on a small tree, you'll have too many air pockets in the soil around the soil particles, and it'll just dry out the roots too quickly. Small trees, you need a finer particle size to fill in between all the fine roots. And the soil's just flowing in there really nicely around the roots. It's looking pretty good, I think. Yeah. We'll want to fill this foliage out a bit more on this side to balance the tree a little better, but it's a good start. Just going to put a little more soil. And we want to just make sure it's all in the root ball or root plane. So we're just going to use the fine point of the scissors and make sure it's all getting down there around the roots. I need like a needle or something to do this with. Not a needle, but like a knitting needle or something a little finer than the end of my root rake or a chopstick. But whatever, this works. And you can see once you have your root plane established, like you know, your flat bottomed root ball, you can't really play with the angle of the tree too much. Once your surface roots are all set in position, you put the tree in the pot and it sits in at the angle it's at. I don't wire my trees into the pot very often. The reason being is I don't want wire marks going across my roots. If you do it carefully, if you put some, you know, rubber banding across the roots so the wires don't dig in, it's not really a problem. It's a good safety feature to keep your tree in the pot. But this tree is going to stay in the greenhouse, so it's not going to get wind on it. And if it were to go outside, I would place rocks around the surface, both to stop evaporation and stop the tree from tipping over. So we've got everything in place. Our soil level's just a little too high right now, but it's not too bad. And I'm going to start just misting the soil. It's quite dry, this soil. If I tried to water this soil with a watering can straight away when it's this dry, it would do funny things. You'd get air bubbles coming to the surface, and it might run off. So it's best to start, get out of here. There's a fly buzzing around here. It's best to get all your soil damped just by misting it lightly like this until it's at the point where it's got enough moisture that you can just water normally with a watering can. And it doesn't hurt to mist the top of the tree. Keep it cool until the new roots can start growing and feed all the leaves on the tree. And I'm not going to put any moss on the surface of the soil yet. The reason is I'm waiting till these roots get established into the new soil, and then I'm going to reduce the soil level a bit. So it's going to be just below the lip of the pot, and then we'll put a nice layer of moss around it. So that'll be later on in the summer. We'll do that. So I'm just going to clean it up, and we'll have a final look at the tree. Okay, so I'm just going to show you another 360-degree view of the tree. So you can see we're starting to get nice, realistic surface roots on the tree. And that's a result of pruning over the years, good root pruning, getting our radial roots sorted out, keeping our root ball flat so all your surface roots are feeding the trunk of the tree, so it gets larger down here at the base of the tree. And I'll just rotate it around so you can see. Let's prune away one of these big leaves here. Rotate it around. There's the back of the tree. More of the structure. There's an original place where I cut the initial cutting to create a shorter tree. Yeah, so a lot of these branches haven't got their leaves, but you can see there's some green tips just coming in on them now. Yeah, so that's it for today. Nigel Saunders for KW Bonsai. We'll see you next time.